So I know it's not normal for me to do a full video like this for a review, as the last time I did this I think was like 2021, and eventually I moved on to doing shorts and now community posts for my movie reviews. However, this is no normal movie we will be reviewing. That's right folks, we are talking about the Minecraft movie today. As you know, Minecraft is a massive part of my channel, obviously with me doing the Dude at SMP for the past 3 years, and now moving on to more Minecraft series. And it goes without saying that it's also been a massive part of mine and a lot of people's lives. I mean, I've been playing this game since it first came out, so I have a lot of nostalgia for it. And this movie has been on quite the journey, but finally getting to see it in the cinema was completely worth the wait. So today, I'll be giving my overall spoiler and non-spoiler thoughts on the film and seeing whether this film was good or not. And don't worry, I'll give everyone a warning when we're about to head into the spoiler territory. And of course everyone, if you do go on to enjoy this video, make sure you do like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel as we are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. With that being said, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, I really enjoyed this film. Now, I understand it's not for everyone, and I feel like there's a lot of bias here from me, but I did really have a fun time with it. That being said, the film does objectively have issues which I cannot overlook. So if we are starting with the negatives, I think it's fair to talk about the really messy plot this film has. I'm not going to go too deep into it with the non-spoilers here, but the story was just kind of nothing. Like, yes, there's an overall story of the heroes versus the piglins, but these random side plots kind of just come out of nowhere and furthermore lead to nothing. This is probably due to another issue of the film, which was its underdeveloped characters. Steve was very much the main character of the film, no surprise there, and he had the most complete story, although it did feel like his personal journey came out of nowhere, and it didn't feel like he learnt a lesson like the ending was trying to imply. Garrett was cool, similar to Steve, he had a pretty complete story, and actually had a journey he went on, and a pretty good redemption arc, so you know what, I'll take that for Garrett. Henry was a weird character in the film because sometimes he was the main character with some things that were being said about him, but I never really got the feeling he was anyone important. Natalie was another interesting character. Her story makes sense, although hers and Henry's backstory was completely underdeveloped. There's also some minor conflict between her and her brother Henry, which was literally over nothing. And then there's Dawn, who was probably the most useless character in the film. She had no backstory, and like Steve, had an outcome which was just not foreshadowed at all. Oh yeah, and we can't forget the villain Malgosha, who had such a goofy backstory, but I really like the piglins in the film and their plot, which actually stayed pretty accurate to the game. However, as I said, I did enjoy the film, and I do genuinely have a lot of positives. Firstly, Jack Black was great in the film. He was a genuine standout. Despite it not being how I pictured Steve at all, he was clearly the most likable character in the film. Also, on the topic of Steve, whilst the film isn't a musical, the songs that were sung in the film were actually pretty good. Steve's Lava Chicken will be stuck in my head forever now. Weirdly enough, the side plot of the villager dating the high school principal in the film, played by Jennifer Coolidge, was actually pretty funny, and I actually laughed a few times at their scenes. And that's another thing, I found this film to be kinda funny. Whether it was funny because it was bad, or because of the memes that came before the film, I did find myself chuckling quite a bit during the film. The visual effects were great in the film, although I will admit that the human characters definitely stuck out like a sore thumb in some scenes. The mobs overall I feel like were replicated perfectly. The only ones that looked weird were the villagers, of course. The props also look pretty great. They definitely captured the Minecraft feel with the film, although the armor did look really goofy whenever it was worn by anyone. Oh, and we can't forget about the post-credit scene, which we'll get back to in a minute, but there were technically two in the film, one that played during the credits rolling and the other that played after them. But overall, I do have two scores for the Minecraft movie, one being what I'd consider a critic score and one which is my own personal score. From a critic's perspective, I could see it being like a 3 or a 4 out of 10, as the negatives I listed were pretty major. But really, this isn't a film made for critics, it's just made for fans of Minecraft or for small children. And with that being said, personally, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. As I said, I really did enjoy it, and there were so many great references in the film which genuinely put a smile on my face. And I think it's much easier to appreciate it if you love Minecraft. The film is definitely geared towards kids, but it still is an enjoyable film. Even if you think it's bad, it will most likely be so bad it is fun. But now I am going to move into spoiler territory, so click off now if you haven't seen the film, as we will be discussing spoilers. So I do want to start off with some of these references and cameos shown in the film. This probably doesn't count as a spoiler because it was announced before the film came out, but as we all know, there were multiple Minecraft YouTubers in the film as cameos, including DanTDM, LD Shadow Lady, Aphmau, and Mumbo Jumbo. I also heard Valkyrae was in the film, but I didn't notice her anywhere. Now, I didn't really watch any of them much apart from Dan, and it was so cool to see him in the film. Granted, it was like a 10-second cameo, but it was so cool to see him in the film, and he was definitely a massive part of Minecraft's legacy. It did kind of make me wish we got a Stampy cameo of some sorts though. The goat, Jeb, was also seen in the film. He was a waiter for the principal and the villager when they were on a date. However, I think the best cameo had to go to Technoblade, where they added this great scene of the only pig in the film walking by wearing Techno's crown, with Steve calling him a legend. And honestly, I know that meant a lot to so many people, and it was really great to see a tribute to him in the film. Then let's move on to some more references, and let's start with Herobrine. Yeah, he was in the film technically. I was genuinely taken back when I saw Steve with white eyes in that Enderman scene in the film. It was so clearly a Herobrine Easter egg as well, because he was the only person with white eyes in that scene, whilst everyone else had purple eyes. And it was actually just so sick to see him in the film. Then when the film started, they also had the animation that played when you generate and load up a new world, which was so cool to see. As for the music, there were lots of songs from the Minecraft soundtrack, hearing the overtune in the film a lot. Hearing Pigstep in there was also epic, I thoroughly enjoyed that. But here's where things got really interesting, as many people were hoping that Revenge would play as the end credits song, myself included. And I was actually disappointed when I didn't hear the credits start with Creeper. Oh man. However, what happened the day of the release of the film was that an unfinished version of the whole film leaked online. And thanks to that leaked version, we now know that Revenge was supposed to be the end credit song for the film. So I really wish I could have seen that on the big screen, as I would have absolutely lost my mind. As I said, there were also two post-credit scenes. The first one being a villager talking, in English and getting married to the principal. It was traumatizing, really. And the second one gave us none other than Alex. Now, I kind of assumed she'd be the post-credit scene, either her or the Ender Dragon, but I find it hilarious how they put so much importance on someone who would just be some random person to anyone who hadn't played the game. Anyway, I feel like that sums up my overall thoughts on the movie. I definitely would recommend seeing it, because at the end of the day, it is just dumb fun. But that is all for me today, folks. This has been Dude8 signing off. Peace out and bye-bye.